All right, we are live. Jasmine McKoy here with Bookies.com, and I'm live with the one and only Minty Bets. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, it's so great to finally get to meet you. I see you all the time on socials. You're killing the game. And speaking of being in a male dominated industry, kind of how do you stay a hold?
My goodness. So it is so different being in a male dominated industry because all my life I've worked in female heavy industries in Vegas, cocktail serving. I worked with a bunch of women. I owned and operated my own floral design company. So working with women and then working for women, specifically like brides. But for the most part, I've received nothing but support from a ton of men. But of course, it's like support with conditions. Oh my gosh, I love your work. Can we collaborate? Oh my gosh, I love your work. Can you retweet my post? And certainly I've received, some hate messages here and there, but I love it because I often don't realize how much viewership my content gets until somebody takes the time out of their day to mention how much, they dislike my work or me. So it has its ups and downs, but I love working in this industry. And where I am the minority in all ways, it's very empowering, and I hope to inspire, my daughter and other young women to be courageous to do anything in any field.
Well, you're definitely killing it. And I know that you are the greatest example for your daughter. Now, I know you mentioned Vegas. I want to say you were born there, you live there.
Yes, born and raised, and I've never lived anywhere else. So I'm a little sick of Vegas, but this is kind of the place to be, for the sports betting industry.
Yeah, how did you get involved in the sports betting industry?
Well, growing up in Vegas, I was always surrounded by gambling. Both my parents worked in casinos. And, one of the fondest childhood memories I had was my dad coming home from work every day, sweating all his bets after work, every sport you could think of. And he was just so notorious for ripping up his bet slips before games ended. So, very fond memory again is him taping up those bet slips because he actually won. He didn't wait long enough for to see the winning ticket. But truly, I didn't get into sports or betting until I was legally able to make money off of it. So when I turned 21, I focused on more sports and how to bet on them, how I could find an edge, what sport was going to be my best. And I sucked at it because I didn't realize there was so much research in it. But I was able to make a living off of sports betting just for a very short time. And yeah, I just got hooked ever since I was able to make a living off of it. And since I, became profitable off of it, I just started to better my game.
And I know it's different as we work in sports. Obviously, we sometimes don't have a favorite, or we have a favorite team, but with work, things are a little bit different. I wanted to ask, who are your growing up were your favorite teams, NFL, NBA? Because I knew being in Vegas, you guys kind of finally just got the Raiders. So who were your teams growing up?
So, growing up, I really didn't care about a lot of sports, but the LA Angels, who were formerly the Anaheim Angels, that was my team because it just reminds me of my dad. I liked the Saints as I got older, but only in the Drew Brees era. So, when he retired, it was perfect because we were getting the Raiders. So I want to say I'm a Raiders fan, but I'm not like a die hard. And I think that's actually a good thing because it keeps me unbiased to, when it comes to betting. But hockey, of course, the Vegas Golden Knights. And I don't have an NBA team yet. So if anyone is moving here, that'll be my team.
I was just about to say, I think that that's the location for the next team. So you'll have to wait a little bit for that. But I also wanted to talk about UFC. I saw that you cover UFC, and I know UFC, their home is in Vegas. Is that kind of how you got into UFC as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm a sports betting analyst for UFC, and I actually got into UFC more around the pandemic in 2020 when that was kind of the only sport on other than NASCAR and horse racing. And I honestly loved UFC ever since then. So I dived deep and I just did a lot of research and trying to better my UFC betting. But I did watch it here and there, but definitely I'm not as passionate as I wasn't as passionate as I am now. So yeah, UFC being in Vegas definitely helps me a lot and helps better my understanding of UFC. So yeah.
And with UFC, there's so much action. I can't imagine being there for that. Is there any favorite memory or favorite fight that you got to cover?
Oh my gosh, there has been so many, but man, I have to think about this. I've seen a lot of great fighters at the Las Vegas Apex, and for those who don't know UFC much, the Las Vegas Apex, it is a very that's where the UFC headquarters is. It's a very exclusive way to watch the fight. It's very intimate. There's only like 2 or 3 rows of seats, and it's pretty pricey. It goes for like $2,000 a ticket, but it is so worth it. All inclusive food and drinks. You get to like the fighters will bleed on you and sweat on you. You're that close. I've seen a handful of fights and I've seen so many rising stars in UFC. So I can't really say I have like one particular fight that I absolutely loved in person, but there are so many fighters that I do love from just being up close and watching them. And just the whole experience at the UFC Apex is very, very memorable. So I'm very grateful every time I get to work there.
And I want to transition into some NFL coverage. Obviously, we have 2 Thursday night football games happening tonight, and I know you'll have to run here shortly just because you have some coverage to do. But I want to do a quick speed NFL betting analysis round with the one and only Minty Bets. So let's begin. Who are some teams that you are just liking for the next Super Bowl?
For this upcoming Super Bowl, I actually like, and I'm going to give you a matchup here. I'm predicting the 49ers to beat the Chiefs. And I think I got that. I sprinkled a little bit on that at 40-1. So that's a pretty good payout. So I do like the Niners to win here. And I think they're 6-1 to win. I mean, they're so strong on both sides of the ball. Brock Purdy seems to bring the excitement and the reliability that San Francisco needs. So hopefully he can stay healthy the whole season, as well as, everyone on that roster. So I really like the Niners here.
And the AFC North is looking a little competitive. Who you got?
Man, I wanted to say Bengals, but the Ravens are looking kind of good. I did place a bet that the Browns would come in last in that division, and I'm kind of liking that because they look awful. Deshaun Watson just doesn't really look like how he looked in his prime years in Houston, or in college. So I like the Ravens to win, and I definitely like the Browns to come in last.
I was about to say Lamar is definitely finding his groove. All right, This is a little different one. Which team in the NFL will have the least amount of wins?
The least amount of wins I like here. Let me go through my notes here. I actually have the Texans with the fewest amount of wins, and I got that at 9-1. They allowed the 3rd most total yards a game, 5th most opponent scoring last season. But now it's kind of looking like the Bears are going to be the team with the fewest wins here. Who knows? So it's a competition between the Bears and the Texans for me.
And our last speed round question is which NFL team will score the fewest points this season?
Okay, I bet this preseason, I have the Colts to score the fewest points at 11-1. I mean, they really don't have a reliable quarterback here right now. Last season, they only Gardner Minshew, let's say, if Anthony Richardson is okay from his concussion, but let's say Gardner Minshew starts, he only started in 5 games and threw as many picks as he did touchdowns. I mean, I just don't see this team as an offensive threat in the NFL.
All righty. I like all of those, and I love the numbers. She did her research, and then, of course, she's always hitting. Minty Bets, thank you so much for joining Bookies.com. I really appreciate you joining us, being here today, and for us to get to know you a little bit more.
Thank you so much, Jasmine.